Consultants are people who borrow your watch and tell you what time it is, and then they just walk off carrying the watch, according to Robert Townsend. Most people use them. Most just glance at their watch or clock to tell the time. They don't really think about any of the internal structure that allows it to function. Although all clocks perform the same task, each type of timepiece functions differently depending on whether it is a quartz, atomic, mechanical, or pendulum clock. So the quartz clock uses the mineral of quartz to function, and there's a battery that pressurizes the quartz. And when the quartz crystal is pressurized, it shakes and puts off energy. So when the crystal shakes, the device counts how many times it shook, and then it uses the battery to calculate how many shakes, and it uses that to determine the time, and it displays the time using hands. Here's an example of a quartz clock. It's basically an ordinary clock, and there's a diagram of the interior. So you can see it's right there, and batteries hiding. The next clock is the atomic clock, and it's incredibly accurate, according to Carolyn Lowry. It's the most accurate clock in the world is an atomic clock in Boulder, Colorado, and it measures the atoms that change, and atoms are constantly changing from negative to positive at a consistent rate, and they change their energy forms. So the standard atoms in an atomic clock are cesium-133, and it translates the atom changes into seconds. So according to hyperphysics, 1 second equals 9 billion. Okay, I'm really bad at pronouncing numbers. So let's just say it's 9192631770 cycles with the standard cesium-133 transition. So here's a picture example. They look the same as most clocks on the exterior. And there's a diagram of the interior. The microwave cavity is where these atoms are. The next clock is a pendulum, mechanical clock. Okay. So it uses gears to function, and the key gears are the mainspring and the pendulum. The pendulum keeps the gears at the same speed and secures them, and it's also the main part that tracks the time. And the mainspring creates energy for the hands to move. It uses the key to operate the mainspring. The mainspring is wound around a key, and when the mainspring unwinds, it creates the energy. And it uses hands, the second, the minute, and the hour hand, which are moved by the mainspring. So there's a picture example. And there's the diagram of the interior. So the pendulum is in the far back, and the hands are up front. The next clock is the pendulum clock. It's powered by a pendulum, which is a metal rod or sometimes a string with a weight at the end, and it moves for a large amount of time. And the force that keeps it consistent is gravity. So it's incredibly consistent. From one end to the other end is the same exact amount of time. So here's a picture example of the exterior, and there's the diagram. When the pendulum moves, it causes the gears to move. It pushes the two wheels that you'll see that are rather large. So the key parts in 4 types of clocks will be easier to determine when seeing the interior parts of a time device. Each style of timepiece functions in its own unique manner. There are some types of clocks could be more accurate than others. They'll perform the same job, which tends to be rather complex. Some basic clocks that all function rather differently are quartz, atomic, mechanical, and pendulum.